Mama, get on with those letters.
There's not a bite to eat in this house.
We'll have plenty to eat if you do what I tell you.
I wish you'd get someone else to write them.
Don't argue.
Get up! Lolling about in here, your place is in the kitchen. The samovar has not been polished for weeks.
No, and I've not been paid for weeks. Not since the old man died.
Don't speak of your sainted master like that. God rest his soul. Go on, go away. I hate the sight of you.
Well, I don't like it here. I'm not used to living in pokey apartments. I'm the only one that stayed on when you moved to this place. You ought to be grateful.
The greatest calamity to ever happen to this country was the freeing of the serfs.
I wouldn't stay at all if it wasn't for the young master. It's only a matter of time before he'll have us up in a fine mansion again.
Well, go and arrange that business with Mr. Mamaya's manservant. How much of your savings have you got left?
Only about 200 rubles, sir.
Nonsense. You've got at least 500. Lend me another 50.
What's this word, Igor? I can't understand your writing. Whichever is a what?
Vile seducer. Thank you. Here you are. Here's 5 for the Mamaya job, 5 to replenish the larder, and 2 for yourself.
Thank you very much, sir.
And don't pay for the food unless you have to.
Very good, sir.
Disgusting dolt. Give me 10 of those rubles. I haven't had a new hat since your father died, and even then I only had one every 3 months. Stingy old devil.
Get on with the letters. Do.
What's the good? Madame Torsina will never let you marry her niece. A dowry of 20,000 rubles.
That's exactly why I've chosen her.
They could get a prince or at least a general for that. Korchev won't get her either, so I don't understand the point of writing these anonymous letters about him. Your own second cousin, too.
As if that mattered to you. You know his type, a typical hussar. If he had money, he'd only lose it at cards.
If I could see any good coming of them.
That's my business.
What chance do you think there is?
Every sort of chance. My dear Mama, you know me. I'm intelligent and malicious, envious of anyone better off than myself. In fact, I take after you. Yet what did I do when Papa was alive and we had money? Nothing but hang about feeling bored and bad-tempered and writing lampoons on everyone in Moscow. Now that I've got to make a place for myself, I've realized it's not enough to make fun of all the stupid people who run this city. One must know how to take advantage of their idiocies. The only thing they do here is talk. So unfortunately, it's no good thinking of a career in Moscow. All one can hope for is a bride with a fat dowry, an important job with no work, and a fat salary.
And where are you going to get that?
In the civil service, of course. But how do you think one succeeds in Moscow? Not by doing anything, merely by talking. Talk is the only thing that matters here. And no one likes talking better than I do. So what's to stop me from succeeding in the hot air spouters' paradise? Nothing.
Well, stop talking and let me write these anonymous letters.
Have you moved my diary, Mama?
It's on the table over there.
What a mistake I've made with all these lampoons and malicious epigrams. I've finished with all that. From now on, it's to be nothing but nauseating, toadying flattery. The only language the elite of Moscow understand. I shall begin with Madame Torsina's circle, and when I've squeezed that dry, I shall move on to the next.
Stop, my head's aching. What's this, Igor? Korchev's a what? A well-known criminal?
No, liberal. Do you know what I intend to do, Mama, while I'm flattering these stupid fools? I must have some outlet for my feelings or I shall go mad. It will be this, my diary. All the bitterness that boils up in my soul I shall get rid of here, and there'll be nothing but honey on my lips. Alone in the silence of the night, I shall write these chronicles of human triviality entirely for myself. I shall be both author and reader.
Styopka!
It's that military gentleman in the hussars. I saw him getting out of a cab with another gentleman. They both looked tipsy to me.
Korchev, what does he want?
Nothing, I dare say, to show off his stupidity.
Do up your coat and take those sunflower seeds out of your mouth. 10 years ago, you would have received a good beating.
Well, it's not 10 years ago.
I better hide these letters. Igor, hide that diary. You don't want
Leave
people prying into it.
Leave them, Mama.
Mr. Korchev and Mr. Glutvin.
Glumov, my dear fellow, allow me to introduce a very great friend of mine. Oh, 1,000 pardons, Madame Glumova. Are you keeping the best of health?
Not too well. It's only 6 weeks since my sainted husband was taken from me. God rest his soul. But pray be seated. If you'll excuse me, I have some correspondence to finish.
Allow me to present a very great friend of mine, Galutin.
Enchanté, madame.
Stjopka, go and attend to that job at once, do you hear me?
Very good, sir.
I know you'll like each other. Glutvin's a devilish clever fellow. Glumov, Galutvin. There, I'm entrusting him to you.
I'm afraid I can't accept that responsibility. This isn't the first time I've met Mr. Galutvin.
I don't think I cared for the tone of voice.
The poor boy's not himself since he lost his sainted father. God rest his soul. But pray be seated.
Certainly, certainly. Sit here, Galutvin.
To what am I indebted for this visit? I have very little time to spare, gentlemen. What's it about?
Mon cher ami, have you any verses?
Verses. You must have come to the wrong place.
Mais non, vous êtes trop modeste, mon cher.
I say, do you mind not scribbling on my papers?
My dear Igor, apologies. Now see here, we know perfectly well you've got some of those, what are they called? You know, funny verses on poems.
Lampoons. In a word, my dear sir, we want lampoons. You've got them.
I'm sorry. I've none at all.
Now, come on, we know. Several fellows have told us. You've got a lot of devilish funny lampoons on everyone in town. Be a good fellow and help out my dear friend Galutvin. He wants to get a job writing the gossip column in a newspaper.
Oh, does he? Have you ever written anything?
Anything? I've written everything. Novels, stories, plays, articles, romances,
Have you
epics.
had them published?
Oh no, none of them have been published.
They're much too good, that's the trouble.
Have you read them?
No, but
Nobody's interested in anything but scandal today. So I want to start on that now. Writing scandalous paragraphs.
I shouldn't do that. It might be dangerous.
Dangerous? What do you mean? That I might be set upon at night, attacked on my way home?
You'd undoubtedly get a few horsewhippings.
Never in Moscow, my dear sir. We leave that sort of thing to other, less civilized cities.
Go on then. Right.
But whom am I to write about? I don't know anyone.
now see here, Igor. We know you've got some sort of diary in which you pulled everyone to pieces.
I hear it's the most delicious, malicious gossip in Moscow. Do lend it to me.
I haven't a diary.
Now come on, you can't keep up this pretense with us.
All I want is the material. Think of the money we could make with your material and my talent.
Be a good fellow, Igor. He needs the money. He has to drink at other fellows' expense. It's humiliating for him.
And I want to work, to work! All I need is the material.
I told you I have none. What's this drawing of a hippopotamus?
It's not a hippopotamus. It's my respected uncle, Neo Mamayev. Drawn as a hippopotamus, of course.
Tell me about him. Is he an interesting personality? Would he be of interest to me, for instance?
He's a horrible old bore. He thinks himself the brainiest man in Moscow, and all he does is lecture people for their own good.
Is he rich? Important?
That's the trouble. He's got a lot of money to leave, so I'm always having to go for him for advice. Nothing gives him greater pleasure.
Excusez-moi, monsieur. Now, all we need is an amusing title for this picture, and we can sell it to the papers. Right underneath it, now let me think of something really witty. Right. The Talking Hippopotamus.
Talking hippopotamus. But look here, we can't have it published. He is my uncle, after all.
And my cousin, incidentally.
Tell me more about him. Does he have any other interesting characteristics that I could satirize?
In my opinion, he's not all there. For years now, he's been looking to buy a new apartment in Moscow, but he doesn't really want one. It's simply an excuse to go about boring people. So he drives out of his house in the morning, goes and looks at about 10 apartments, and then goes for a round of grocery shops to taste the caviar and herring. Then he plants himself down and boards the unfortunate shop assistants. Poor fellows, don't know how to get him out of the shop. But he's pleased with himself and thinks he spent a profitable morning. Oh, and his wife, my Aunt Cleopatra, is in love with you.
Oh, really?
She saw you at the opera the other day. Who is that? She kept asking me. Her eyes were nearly popping out of her head, and she was practically twisting her neck off. I mean it. This is no joke, you know.
I'm not joking. It's you who treat everything as a joke.
Well, you should take my advice. I should follow that up if I were you. Now, are you going to let us see that diary or not?
No.
Be a good fellow.
Just a tiny peek. Some lampoons then. One lampoon. An epigram.
I told you I have none.
What's the use of talking then? Let's go out and get some dinner. Bonjour, madame. Merci.
Going so soon? Oh, this correspondence. My poor brain, even the spelling knows. How many L's are in villainous?
Villainous. Let's see. 2?
Of course, thank you.
May I be of assistance? Shall I have the letters
Oh,
delivered for
no,
you?
no, thank you, thank you. You're too kind. I couldn't put you to so much trouble. Come again soon. Always delighted to see you.
Indeed I will.
What on earth are you doing with a creature like that?
Devilish clever fellow. I like clever people.
You've most certainly found one there.
Clever enough for us anyways. Real intelligent people wouldn't deal with people like us.
It's working, Mama, exactly as I'd planned. I knew Cousin Cleopatra had seen me from her box. I took good care that she should. She had an excellent view of my profile. And I tried to look exceedingly romantic.
As for Maya, her husband, he's the one you must get a hold of. Why should Korchev get a legacy from him? You must get it instead, Igor. Shall I write some anonymous letters to him?
No. I know all about Mamaya. He has at least 50 nephews and cousins, including myself, whom he hasn't met yet. He chooses one, names a will in his favor, until he gets sick of him. Then he forbids him the house, chooses another one, and renames his will again. But Korchev won't last long. This drawing of a hippopotamus should prove very useful. You see, once I'm friends with the Mamayas, I'm on the first rung on the ladder. Through them I can meet Grodlin and Krutitsky, who are not only extremely important in the civil service, but they're intimate friends of Madame Torresina. And once I've gained entrance to her house, there's nothing to stop me.
That's all very well, dear, but the most difficult step is the first.
I've taken it. Mamaya's coming here this morning.
What do you mean?
He likes looking over apartments. Stupka's out arranging with the guy's servant to bring the old fellow here. If this is Madame Anieva, be as nice to her as possible. In fact, be more than nice to her.
Indeed I won't. Why should I lower myself in front of a disgusting common creature? A low fortune teller reeking of vodka.
Clairvoyant Mama, and a very useful ally. She's going to tell fortunes at Madame Torresina's next Wednesday. Just enough time for you to play the grand lady when I'm married to her niece. For the moment, all I ask is your help. You must treat her as if she were an archbishop. When she moves about the room, we must support her from the underarms, like acolytes when a bishop's saying mass. She expects that. And give her what's left of the vodka. Madame Anieva, Mama, it's Madame Anieva. Our prayers are answered. This is a great Mama. This is a great honor.
Are you fleeing from the vanities of the world, young man?
Oh, indeed I am. But I'm in need of your assistance, your holy influence. Mama, get Madame Anieva a chair.
Ooh, my back. Ooh. That's better. It must be that tea they gave me where I called last. Something told me that would be an evil house.
Do you think a drop of vodka would put you right? Mama, get the vodka for Madame Anieva.
Ooh, flee from the vanities of the world. At one pious household I was in today, they gave me money for charity. They gave alms through my holy hands. Holy saints prefer alms to flow through holy hands instead of sinful ones.
And such holy hands. May I humbly offer 20 rubles?
Ooh, blessed are they who give. Could you make it 30?
25.
It's all arranged, sir. The gentleman's on his way here now.
Madam Aniefa, will you stay and share our humble meal?
A few crusts, that's all I need.
Perhaps you'd like to rest first. Mama, take Madam Aniefa to your room.
God's chosen ones are sorely afflicted, and flee from the vanities of the world.
And don't forget the vodka bottle. Madam Aniefa is worn out with her holy work. You didn't pay for that, Stiopka.
Oh, bless you, no, sir. It's from Smirnov's or Mr. Courtship shops. I put it down to his account.
Good. How much did you give Mamaev's servant?
3 rubles.
I must put this all down.
That'll be him.
25.
Lying on my bed. I shall have to have it disinfected now.
Go back and stay with her. Don't come in till I call you.
Disgusting creature. I was saving that vodka for my birthday.
I have brought Mr. Mamaev, sir. I don't know how he'll take it. I told him this was a nice apartment.
Here you are. Here's another ruble.
Very good, sir.
Go on, Stiopka, into the kitchen.
Good luck, sir. He's a silly old fool. I've seen him. What's this? A bachelor's apartment?
Yes, it is.
Wouldn't be so bad. Decently furnished. But what good's a bachelor's apartment to me? Why did you bring me here?
Do sit down.
Thank you. Why did you bring me here?
Sorry, sir.
You know perfectly well that this is of no good to a man like me. A place like this for the minister of the state? You know quite well Cleopatra likes to hold open house.
Sorry, sir.
And where is the drawing room?
Sorry, sir.
Don't sorry, sir, me. Damn stupidity. Oh, there you are. See? There's a young man writing. He's probably just being disturbed by us, but we're too polite to say anything. And it's all your fault. You silly fool.
Please, don't blame him. I happened to hear him inquiring about an apartment in this building, so I suggested mine. I'm afraid I didn't realize you were a family man.
Are you the owner of this apartment?
Yes, I am.
Well, what are you letting it for then?
It's beyond my means.
Well, then why take it in the first place? Were you forced into it? Were you dragged by the scruff of your neck? That's right. Take an apartment with no means to pay for it. And I'm sure by now you know no way to turn. Oh, I know. And you're probably used to these spacious surroundings that you'll have to come down and live on bare boards in one room with an oil store. You'll enjoy that, won't you?
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm planning to move to a bigger apartment.
A bigger apartment? Why, you haven't got the means to keep this up, and you want to move into a bigger apartment? Are you not quite right in the head? Is that the reason?
No, I don't think so. It's just stupidity.
Stupidity? What nonsense.
I wish it were, but I'm just plain stupid.
Stupid? Oh, that's funny. In what way? Stupid.
I'm a bit simple. Not enough brains. There's nothing funny in that, is there? It's quite usual.
Now, this is very interesting. A man accuses himself of being stupid?
Well, it comes better from me than other people. What I mean is, I'd rather say it first myself. It's no use my trying to hide it.
Oh, well, it is very difficult to hide a defect like that, I suppose.
I never tried to.
Very sad. Most regrettable. There's no one to teach you, to guide you, I suppose.
No one.
But they're hard teachers. Very intelligent ones at that. It's only no one listens to them nowadays. Well, you can't expect much from the old people. Most of them imagine that just because they're old and elderly, they're intelligent and in no need of education. But when the youngsters won't listen to you, well then what's the world coming to? Take one instance, for example. I stopped a young schoolboy who was rushing away from school one day and I said, yes, you rush away from school fast enough. But it's a different story when you go to school in the morning. You creep along slowly enough, then I'll be bound. Well, you'd think any decent boy would be grateful that a man of my stature would bother to stop and talk to him in the street. But not a bit of it with this young puppy. Instead of stooping down and kissing me on the hand as you'd expect, do you know what he said?
No.
Save your lectures for your fat wife, he said. And then he called me a rude name, stuck out his tongue, and ran off.
Disgusting.
Exactly.
Well, poor lad, I suppose he'd got no one to set his footsteps on the right path.
Completely. Well, you know why that's why servants are so bad nowadays. They no longer have to look to their masters for instruction and guidance. In the old days, I used to lecture all of my servants on the conduct of every detail of their lives. I would lecture them all, from the highest to the lowest. I would take them up into the highest spheres of thought, and there they'd be so overwhelmed, so overcome, that by the end, they'd be worn out with sighing. But all that's changed now, ever since the Great Calamity. You, of course, know what I'm referring to.
The freeing of the serfs.
The worst thing ever to happen to this country. You know I'm not a stern man. I do it all with words, not like some of those nouveau riche gentlemen. When they lecture a servant, they grab him by the hair and they pull at every word. He understands it better that way, they say. Makes it more comprehensible. Well, that's not my method. Do it all with words, I say. But do you think they're grateful? Not a bit of it.
Wicked. It's really wicked.
Very wicked. Every time I think about it, it's like a knife going through me right here.
Where did you say a knife was going through you? Here?
Oh, no. Here, look.
What, here?
No, higher up. Look, here.
Oh, I see. Here!
No, my boy, right here.
Do forgive me. I told you I was stupid.
Yes, I'm afraid you are. It's a very bad disadvantage for a young man of your age. But it can be overcome if you've got wise, elderly relations and friends to help you.
That's just the trouble. I haven't anyone like that. There's my mother, of course. But she's even more stupid than I am.
It's a very bad position for a young man of your age to be in.
I have got an uncle in Moscow. At least he's really only a cousin, but I think of him as my uncle.
Well, why don't you go to him?
I wish I could. I hear he can give invaluable advice from his great fund of knowledge and experience. But he doesn't even know of my existence, and nothing would induce me to scrape acquaintance with him.
Why, that's a very bad attitude to take.
Oh, you misunderstand me. If he were poor like myself, I'd kneel in front of him, kiss the hem of his garment. But he's rich. He's a great man in Moscow. If I went to him for advice, he'd think I'd only come for money. How could I explain that I didn't want a farthing from him? That all I wanted was the guidance that he alone could give me? That I was thirsting, starving for some words of guidance, some heavenly lecture that would drop from his lips like manna from heaven. Oh, if only he were poor like myself, I'd listen to him day and night.
You don't sound as stupid as you seem.
Yes, at times, lucid moments come over me. It's as if a fog lifts from my brain, but most of the time I feel as if I'm not quite all there. That's where I need someone to guide me.
What did you say this uncle was called?
Oh, I hardly remember. I think it's, Mamayev. Neil Mamayev.
Mamayev? And, what did you say your name was?
Glumov. Igor Glumov.
Dmitry Glumov's son?
Yes.
Oh, why, what an extraordinary coincidence.
Did you know my father?
I am that very Emil Mamayev of which you speak.
What?
It's me. It's me.
Good heavens, uncle, it is you. Oh, you will let me call you uncle, won't you? Let me look at you. Let me take your hand. Oh. But uncle, I heard you quite don't like your relations. I completely understand. You must know so many wonderful people. I shall never intrude on you. It's enough for me that I've seen you in the flesh and talked to you. I will never forget what you said to me, the wonderful advice you've given me today.
Nonsense, my boy. Whenever you need advice, come to me.
But I always need it, uncle, always.
Well, then it's settled. You'll come in tonight.
This is wonderful. I must tell Mama. Do you think I may present her to you?
Well, I don't see why not. Fetch her in.
Mama! She's not very brilliant, I'm afraid, but she's got a heart of gold. Mama, what do you think? Oh, you must promise me not to cry. It may be too much for her. Who do you think has showed up? It's Papa's dear second cousin, Mr. Mamayev. For years she's been longing to meet you. Isn't this a great honor, Mama? And he's going to let me call him Uncle.
Indeed, I've always longed to meet you. I've heard so much about you from my dear Dmitri, my sainted husband. God rest his soul. Why, you were almost the last person he spoke of before he passed away. Do you remember, Igor? And to think, God has sent you to us at last.
Mama, darling,
come now,
you
you must
promised
not
not to
take it
cry.
like this.
Oh, I can't help it. I know it's stupid of me, but they say that Uncle doesn't like his relations. God has sent him to us, and now he'll snatch himself away again.
Come now. There are relations, and then there are relations.
Oh, please forgive me. It's just the shock coming so suddenly like this. But Neil, let me get a good look at you. Dimitri's own second cousin. But Igor, he's not a bit like it.
Mama!
What's the matter? He isn't like it, is he? You can't say he is.
Not a little bit like what? So, what's this I'm not like?
Why must you blurt things out like this? Don't listen to her, Uncle. She's only speaking nonsense.
Oh no, one must tell the whole story or none at all.
I'm simply saying that the portrait doesn't look a bit like you.
Portraits? Where did you get a portrait from?
Well, you see, Igor Porchev comes to see us sometimes. He's a nephew of yours too, isn't he?
Such a charming fellow.
Yes, and, well, what?
He happened to draw a picture of you. Igor, show it to Uncle.
Oh, I really don't know where I put it.
Oh, well, do find it. He was drawing it just now, remember? And who was that with him? That peculiar man who writes rude rhymes about people? Korchev said, I'll draw a picture of my uncle for you, and you write something underneath. I was here, I heard them.
Well, show this picture to me. Show it to me at once.
Mama, you really ought to be more discreet.
That's right. Teach your mother to be a hypocrite. What's this? A hippopotamus? What's it say underneath?
Uncle Mamayev, the talking hippopotamus.
Talking hippopotamus, that's it.
If that boy ever shows his face in my house again, I'll teach him. So this is gratitude, young blackguard. I've lectured him, I've advised him, I've tried to set him on the right path. Well, thank God my eyes have been opened now. You don't draw libelous pictures of me, do you?
Oh, Uncle, please, what do you take me for?
Well, then it's settled. You must come around this evening. We'll be expecting you too, Madame Blumova.
Oh, no, let Igor go alone. You don't want me there. My foolish nonsense.
No, not at all. My wife will be delighted.
Mama and I will look forward to it. What time did you say you'll expect us?
Come any time after 8 o'clock.
What a wonderful chance you're coming here today, Uncle.
Goodbye. Don't come before 8 or we shan't have finished supper. Come on now, don't stand there gaping like a half-wit.
Goodbye, Uncle. It's working, exactly as I planned.
That old codger's face when he saw the hippopotamus. I thought I'd burst, I really did.
Be quiet, can't you? We can hear you on the stairs.
I told you he'd have us up in a fine mansion again, didn't I?
Mama,
Don't put the smoked herring on the table like that. Put it on a plate, properly.
you were very helpful about the picture. Thank you.
I was only doing my best.
Come on, let's begin. I'm hungry.
This must have cost a few rubles.
Don't worry. He put it on Korchev's account.
Good. Open the wine store.
We'd better call Madame Anieva.
She's asleep. Let's leave her. She put me off my food.
That old codger's face when he saw the hippopotamus. If that young man dares to show his face in my house again.
Has my uncle been here?
Yes? Why? And do you mind knocking before you come in?
Have you been discussing me with him?
Discussing you? Why should I be? He came in to see the apartment, that's all.
I don't believe it. It's a plot, that's what it is. It's a devilish plot against me.
Don't raise your voice in front of me, please.
I'm sorry, I can't help it. I ran into my uncle in the street just now, and he said he never wanted to see my face again. Can you imagine that?
I'm imagining it. Can you imagine it, Mom?
Then I went to Madame Torsina's, and she refused to let me in the house. She sent up one of her companions, one of those disgusting hangers-on of hers, to forbid me to let me into the house. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, I hear.
I demand an explanation of it.
Why come to me for an explanation? If you want to know, I should think the explanation's in the sort of life you lead.
It's no different than any other fellow's. Whatever I may have done, it's no reason to cut off a fellow's engagement to a girl, to take his legacy away.
And what about your friends? Galutfin, for instance.
Galutfin?
Yes, Galutfin. How dare you bring that creature into my house? How dare you introduce him to my mother?
Yes, how dare you?
I happen to be very particular about the people I mix with. Therefore, to protect myself and my mother, I kindly ask you not to visit us again.
I should think not.
Have you gone mad?
Mr. Mamayev has thought it fit to turn you out, and I only wish to follow his example. Stepka, show this gentleman the door.
All right, I'm going. But let me tell you this. If this is your doing, my friend, if my suspicions prove correct, then I'm warning you. Take care. That's all.
I shall take care when necessary. But at the moment, I see no serious danger.
This way, sir.
Neither we nor they who are leading us know whither to we are going, or what we are going to do when we get there.
The younger generation can't settle down. They want to change everything. Let's try this, let's try that, I'll alter this, I'll change that. It's easy enough to change anything. The furniture in this conservatory, for instance. Why? I can take it and I can turn it upside down. But what of the centuries of wisdom, of experience, which lie behind the making of a table with 4 legs to stand on? Here lies a table with 4 legs, and does it stand firmly?
Firm as a rock. Oh, there's something wrong with the leg. It could use a ledge.
That's beside the point. Now, we'll take it and we'll turn it upside down. There, you see, we've done it.
Ah, yes, we've done it. There's change for you.
Or we could turn it sideways. No, upside down is more telling. This should show the younger generation what their passion for change will lead to.
What will they see?
Well, if they don't, they must be taught to see. There are people capable of teaching, after all.
Ah, yes, very intelligent ones at that. But no one listens to them nowadays.
It's our own fault. We may know how to express our opinions in words, but that's not enough. We should write them. Only the young people write nowadays. That's the solution to the problem. One must write more. Write.
It's all very well to say right, but one must have the knack for it. One may be the most intelligent man in Moscow and not have that particular knack. Take myself, for instance. If you asked me to, I could start talking now and continue until this time tomorrow. But if you asked me to write, well, I don't have that particular knack. Do you have the knack?
Oh yes, I read quite a lot.
Oh, well, I guess some people are born with it.
The time has gone when a command of language is sufficient to make oneself felt. Nowadays, one must have command over the pen.
To have the knack is certainly not a question of intelligence.
Oh no, I wasn't suggesting such a thing. By the way, do you know of a young man, fairly well educated, of fairly good family, who could help me express on paper ideas, thoughts, plans for the improvement of the Russian people, for instance?
Why, yes, I know exactly the young man you're looking for.
He mustn't be one of those frivolous, free-thinking young gentlemen one finds today, always gossiping and turning everything into ridicule.
Oh, why not at all? He's coming in later. I'll introduce you to him.
Is he here now, in the ballroom?
He's not come in yet.
Well, you see, I've come up with a very important plan for the improvement of the Russian peoples. As you know, I'm a man who's been educated in the old school.
And a far, far better one at that.
And as a man educated in the old school, I express myself in the style of, how should I say it? Well, in the style of the great Lomonosov.
Ah, yes, Lomonosov, the great Russian Shakespeare.
On the contrary, Shakespeare was the English Lomonosov. Now anyways, as I was saying, if one were to write in the style of Lomonosov or Sumarokov, one would only be laughed at. So do you think this young man might be able to slightly rewrite my work in the less eloquent language of today?
Well, I don't see why not.
I should pay him adequately, of course.
Even if you were to not pay him at all, he would consider it an honor.
I wouldn't care to be under an obligation to him. What did you say his name was?
Glumov. Igor Glumov.
He has everything one hopes to find in a young man. Charm, good manners, good looks. Oh. You two naughty men, boring each other in here. You should be out entertaining the guests. Dear cousin Igor and Glafira have arrived. Let me present you, Mr. Kartitsky, Glafira Glumova.
I'm quite bewildered at so much splendor, so many distinguished gentlemen. But it's always the same at Cousin Cleopatra's.
Madame Glumova, nice to see you.
Dear Neil, I have a bone to pick with you.
Oh, why, whatever for?
You're taking my son away from me. He doesn't love his poor old mother anymore. It's uncle this, uncle that. Nobody's as clever as uncle, he says.
Oh, he's a good lad. A good lad.
And so charming, so modest. He doesn't want to dance with any of the young ladies out in the ballroom. He's quite content just to sit and watch or talk to his auntie.
Is this the young man you were telling me of?
Oh, why, yes, come in and meet him.
He was always the same, even as a little boy. He never forgot to kiss his mama and papa goodnight. And even all his grandmamas and grandpapas too, and even great aunt Eudoxia Gregorovna, even though she had a big wart and quite a long mustache. I'll never forget. One morning, he put his little head around the door and he said, Mama, I dreamt about the angels last night. Two ever such beautiful angels flew right up to my cot and they said, always obey Mama and Papa and love them. And never forget, when you grow up, always love your betters and elders and obey them too. And I said, thank you. Thank you, beautiful angels. And I'll always obey everybody. I can see it as if it were yesterday with his little head around the door and his lovely long ringlets around his face.
Oh, the darling pet.
He is a good lad. Please tell your son I said that. Madame Glumova, I know your husband's passing has left you in a bad state. Tell you what, come by my house sometime this week, and I'll give you some.
Oh, you couldn't. You're too kind.
Not money, advice. Come by sometime and bring your household accounts. I'll help you see what you can cut out.
Oh, you're too good to us. Dear Cleopatra, if it weren't for you, Igor would have lived his life in obscurity, never going anywhere or meeting anyone.
Oh, I don't think so at all. We'd have been bound to notice him at some time or another.
I don't see why. You have to be clever for someone to notice you.
Not at all. There's no need to be clever when you're as handsome as Igor. What does he want a brain for? He's not going to be a professor. A handsome young man can always find someone to help him simply out of sympathy, either with a career or just with money so he can live comfortably. With a clever man, it's different. Nobody minds if they see a clever man, shabbily dressed, living in a cheap apartment and dining off cold sausage and a piece of bread. That doesn't bring a lump to your throat and make you feel as though you must do something for him. You'd expect a clever man to live like that. But when you see a poor boy who's young and handsome, shabbily dressed, then it's unbearable. It mustn't be allowed. No, it won't. I'll see that it isn't.
What an angel you are, an angel!
The women of Moscow must band together. We must insist that our friends, our husbands, and all the authorities rise to their feet to help him. We simply cannot allow a handsome young man to be spoilt by poverty. There's so few of them nowadays. Of course, it goes without saying we should sympathize with all poor people. But to see a handsome young man with sleeves too short or frayed shirt collar, that's what touches the heart. And besides, a man can't be bold and dashing when he's poor. He can't have that conquering expression, that air of jauntiness which is so pardonable in a handsome young man.
Igor's so grateful to you, dear Cleopatra. And no one knows how to be more grateful than Igor.
That's very pleasant to hear.
It's more than gratitude, even. He positively adores you both.
Adores? Aren't you exaggerating?
Not a bit. It's part of his character, his beautiful soul. Of course, it's not for me to praise my own son, and he hates my talking about him. But...
Oh, please go on. What was it he said?
Well, there's no one in the world like you two, he thinks. Neil's brain, well, you know what he thinks about that, but your beauty, well, it's indescribable, he says. It should be immortalized on canvas.
Oh, really? Did he really say that?
And shall I tell you something else he said? No. Perhaps I hadn't better.
Do go on, please. What was it he said?
Promise not to be angry with me.
No, of course not.
No, I'm so stupid, I always blurt everything out.
Yes, what was it he said?
Well, oh, he's an angel, he said, an angel, and all at once he put his head on my bosom and burst into tears.
Oh, how strange. Whatever made him do that? What else did he say?
It's not so much what Igor said in words, but dear Cleopatra, you must forgive him. He's only a young man, and you know what young men are. I'm afraid he has a passionate nature. How can I explain? He's like a volcano underneath. And ever since meeting you, well, I'm afraid at any moment he might just erupt.
Oh! Do you think he might?
I'm afraid I've said too much and spoiled everything, but I'm sure whatever he feels for you is purely as a relation. And yet, one must admit at his age, the proximity of a young, beautiful woman, well, he never sleeps a wink at night after meeting you. I can hear him tossing and turning.
Tell me, does he confide in you, or does he hide his very deepest emotions?
From his mama, never. He's just like a little boy. He tells me everything.
Yes, a little boy, but like a volcano, too. What he wants is an experienced woman to guide him.
Oh, couldn't it be you?
You're very fond of him, I can see that.
Fond? He's my only child. I love him. I love him!
We must love him together!
We must! We will! Only, I don't know what Igor would say if he knew I told you all this. Promise you'll never let him know. Never.
Darling, never, never.
I just know that Igor feels so ashamed of his poor, stupid mother because she's so stupid sometimes. I know he is.
Oh, I was looking for Mama. I didn't know you were with her, Auntie.
Come in, come in. There's nothing to be frightened of. Why so shy still?
You and Mama are talking.
Oh no, Auntie's had enough of my foolish nonsense, I'm sure. Cleopatra, let me get you some refreshments. You've been so busy with your guests, you've had nothing.
No, thank you. How thoughtful you are. Get something yourself, darling.
Don't you worry about silly old mother. You mustn't be so bashful, dear. Stay and talk to Aunt. You must learn how to behave around young, beautiful women. Isn't that right, Cleopatra? But you'll soon learn. Auntie will teach you.
Come. Sit down next to me. easy with your manner. After all, I'm only a human being like everyone else. Am I not?
Yes, Auntie.
And don't call me auntie all the time.
May I really call you Cleopatra?
Of course, Susie boy. And you must be more open with me.
Open?
Yes. I sense a troubled look in your eyes sometimes. Couldn't you tell me what it is? I might be able to help you.
I wish I could. If only you were
What?
a middle-aged woman.
But I don't want to be a middle-aged woman.
The very thought of it's unbearable. What I mean is, if you weren't so young and beautiful, I wouldn't feel so shy.
Now come, sit closer. Tell me everything frankly. Why wouldn't you be so shy if I were a middle-aged woman?
Well, a young woman has her own affairs, her own interests. She's no time for bothering about her poor relations, whereas a middle-aged woman has nothing else to do.
Well, why can't a young woman take an interest in her relations?
She can, but one wouldn't like to ask her. Her life's full of gaiety and amusement. The last thing she wants to see is a dull nephew or cousin with a long face, always importuning her with tedious requests. With
What?
a middle-aged woman, it would be different. She'd have a new interest in life. She'd enjoy bustling about Moscow, using her influence for him, and letting all her friends know what a kind heart she had.
Yes. Well, suppose I were a middle-aged woman. What would you ask me to do for you?
But you're not. You're a very young woman.
Yes, it's all the same. Suppose I were middle-aged, just for the sake of the argument.
Well, it's not all the same. But for instance, I know you'd only have to say one word to Ivan Gorodilin, and I should get a good post in the civil service.
Yes, one word to Gorodilin would be enough.
But I wouldn't bother you with such a tedious request.
Why not?
To begin with, it wouldn't be fair,
Not fair. Why?
because he's in love with you.
What makes you think that?
I'm certain of it.
What a lot you know. And can you tell me what I feel towards him?
Only you know that.
Aren't you interested in what I feel?
It's not for me to pry into your secret feelings.
How would you feel if I said I returned his passions?
I only know this. There's nothing Gorodilin dare refuse you. He'd be delighted if you asked a favor of him, so to make you ask him for something from me would be like giving him a bribe.
Sheer imagination. So, you don't want me to speak about you?
Positively not. How could I let myself be indebted to you? What could I do to repay you?
How would you repay a middle-aged woman?
That would be easy. I should pander to her, indulge her whims, keep kissing her hand and telling her she didn't look a day over 25. But unless she were middle-aged, there'd be no point in all that.
No, of course not.
You know, I'd become very attached to her if she were kind and charming. Quite fond of her, in fact.
But couldn't you become fond of a young woman?
I could, but I wouldn't dare to.
Am I intruding?
No, come in, Ivan. I was thinking of you only a moment ago. Let me present to you my cousin, Igor Glumov, Ivan Gorodilin. Igor, be a dear and fetch me a glass of wine. It's insufferably hot tonight. Why pursue me in here when there's so many eligible young ladies to dance without in the ballroom?
I can't even see them, Cleopatra. I may appear calm, but there's a tumult in my brain and a storm of passion in my heart.
That's very nice of you. I'm glad I'm not entirely forgotten. Poor, lonely, neglected me.
Who is this man who dares to neglect you? Is he here? Point him out to me, that is all. I'm in a particularly pugnacious mood today.
You're the principal culprit. You deserve to be shot, or at least punished in some way.
At your fair hands, lady. I don't mind which.
I've already thought of a punishment for you.
What is it? To be strangled in your embrace?
No, I want to ask a favor of you.
Oh, I see. You wish to reverse our roles then?
What do you mean?
You wish to come to me in the humble role of a petitioner.
Are you a petitioner? I thought you were a judge, or likely to become one someday.
Yes, but with the women, I'm always.
Do stop being fatuous. I've serious business to discuss.
I'm all attention.
My nephew is in need of
Of a what? Of a new school uniform? Some white mice?
Stop being tiresome. Listen to me and don't interrupt. He's not really my nephew. He's my cousin, really. The young man you just met
And he's very charming, intelligent, and good looking.
So much the worse for me.
He wants a job,
What do you fancy for him?
an important job in the civil service. He's very capable.
In that case, they wouldn't want him.
I shall become very bored with you in a moment, and we shall quarrel. Do you know of a post for him?
Well, I might know of something for an ordinary young man. For a paragon of intelligence, I should find it difficult. Let's have a look at this phenomenon, and I'll tell you what I could recommend him for.
Thank you, Yvonne. How kind of you. I shall leave you two men alone. I'm neglecting my guests. Here's to your friendship. I shall come back in a little while and see how you've gotten on.
Allow me. Such a charming woman my cousin is.
Yes, charming, charming. Ever been in the civil service?
I was once, but I gave up.
Why?
I hadn't the qualifications for the job. Whatever qualities I may have, they're not much use there.
Surely all one needs is an average brain and the ability to work a few hours a day.
I wouldn't say I was lacking in either of those qualities, but are they really to get one anywhere? Maybe they're enough if one's content to finish one's life as a petty government official, but if you're to go on without influence, some very different qualities are necessary.
What, for instance?
Well, one must be able to keep one's reasoning powers in abeyance unless specifically ordered to use them. To laugh loudly, but not too loudly, when one's boss unbends enough to make a joke. To do all the thinking for one's superiors, as well as all the work with them, while giving the impression that you're unutterably stupid and that they've thought of everything themselves. Besides this, some very sycophantic qualities are necessary, that at the same time mustn't be too obvious. For example, when one's boss enters the office, you must jump to your feet and spring to attention, in a way that's both obsequious and yet not obsequious. Cringing, yet noble and trustworthy. Then when he sends you for something, you must tear off to get it, but without giving the impression of an undignified rush.
You put it most amusingly, but it doesn't hold good still. Things have changed in the last few years.
I don't see any difference. The civil service is entirely made of papers and forms. It's just a fortress of papers, forms, and red tape. The unfortunate citizens of Moscow have to cower in front of an incessant bombardment of circulars, orders, forms, and certificates.
Do you realize that you've a considerable talent for expressing things?
I'm so glad you sympathize with my ideas. There aren't many people who would.
It's not the ideas. Anyone can have ideas. It's the wording, the phrasing that's good. Would you do me a very great favor?
Of course. What?
Write all that down on paper.
Well, of course I will, but what for?
I'll be quite frank with you. I wouldn't dream of telling this to anybody else, but you and I understand each other. We are both men of principle. We can be completely open. The truth is, I've an after-dinner speech to make tomorrow, and I simply haven't had the time to think.
Well, of course I'll help you.
Do this for me as a friend.
Don't say another word about it. No, you give me a position where I can be of some use to my fellow men, where I can study them, study their daily needs so that I can see them satisfied promptly and sympathetically.
That's wonderful. Really wonderful. Would you mind writing that down too? Now, I think the best post for an honest, idealistic man like yourself would be as a head of some state philanthropical institution.
I don't mind what work I do, as long as it would be useful and constructive. Would augment the quantity of good necessary for the well-being of the masses.
That's very fine indeed. Would you write that down too?
Would you like me to write the whole speech for you?
Would you really? There you are. You see, we've only spoken a few words and we're friends in no time. Simply because we share the same principles and ideas. Now I must go and have a word with Cleopatra. Poor soul. She will throw these insufferable receptions. She's the only one who enjoys them, and one spends the evening waiting on and flattering her, simply because one can't afford to fall out with the old man. Are you coming?
Not for a moment.
But you speak so well, my dear fellow. We need more men in Moscow like you. A pity there aren't more like you.
can't tell you now, Mama. Don't interrupt me.
What are you doing?
I'm making notes for my diary. I must put this all down while it's fresh in my mind.
Have you written down everything she said to you? Oh, this caviar's delicious. I've got 4 pots in my bag to take home.
Do leave me alone.
Just the man I'm looking for.
I'll leave you two alone if you two want to talk. Go on, go on. Don't worry about me, silly little mother. Always in the way.
Yes, Uncle?
Here, come here. I've just been talking to Krutitsky. He wanted my advice on a certain matter. A very decent old man. He's written a treatise, an article or something, and he needed some help polishing it up a bit. I mentioned your name, of course. Now, he's not a particularly bright fellow. For all I know, it's maybe a load of drivel. But when you see him, just flatter him up a little bit.
Oh, Uncle, you're asking me to do a thing like that?
Well, I'm not saying one should flatter people all the time, but it wouldn't do any harm just to butter him up a little bit. Just 1 or 2 compliments on his style or something or else should give the old gentleman pleasure. He can be of use to us at the moment. Later on we can abuse him as much as we'd like, but not at the moment. I'll take you to see him tomorrow. Then there's another rather delicate matter. What are your relations with your aunt?
I beg your pardon, Uncle?
How are you behaving to her?
Correctly, I hope.
Oh, never mind correctness. If you don't understand what I'm driving at, you must listen and learn, and be grateful that I am here to teach you. Women aren't interested in the correctness of behavior. All that they want is for their beauty to be recognized.
Yes, yes, of course. How stupid of me. It simply never entered my head.
Well, there you are. You know, you are definitely only second cousins, but in reality, you're still related. You can be much freer with my wife than you would with, say, a mere acquaintance. I don't see why you should not, say, absentmindedly kiss her hand, and then, having kissed it once, kiss it again, or do something with your eyes. You, of course, know the sort.
I'm afraid I don't.
Oh, good heavens, you've a lot to learn. Well, something like this.
Don't. What on earth are you doing?
You must just practice it in front of a mirror. And then you give out some sort of sigh. The ladies love it. It goes down very well with them.
What sort of sigh should I give, Uncle?
Something very languid, as though you can't hold it in any longer. Like this. But you need to practice it. You need to practice it a lot.
I will. Indeed I will, Uncle. And thank you very, very much for your advice.
Thank you much, lad. I feel much easier that I've spoken to you. Do you understand?
I'm afraid I don't.
Well, your aunt is a woman of very temperate passion. It's very on the cards that she may become infatuated with some young scoundrel. Frivolous, you know the type. Whereas here you are, a good, decent young fellow whom I heartily approve of. As the old proverb goes, the wolf shall be satisfied, and the sheep shall remain untouched. Now do you understand?
I can hardly speak, Uncle.
Hardly speak, why ever so?
It takes my breath away, the amazing power of your brain.
Oh. Well, it's always at your service if you need it.
I've had an idea, Uncle. I don't suppose it's much good,
Well, come out with it.
Well, you know how careful one has to be in Moscow society. There's so much whispering and scandal-mongering. Well, suppose you were to introduce me to Madame Torresina. I could openly pay court to her niece and even propose if you approved. Then all eyes would be fixed on that, and nobody would notice what Aunt Cleopatra and I were up to. Then indeed, the wolves really would be satisfied, and the sheep remain untouched.
A very solid idea, my boy. Good idea.
Of course, it wouldn't let Aunt Cleopatra know. Not that she'd be jealous, of course, but it's best to use a little tact with women.
Oh, don't I know that?
When did you say you were going to take me to Madame Torresina's?
Anytime you'd like. Tomorrow evening. And once we get there, I want you to do everything that I told you. I want you to start right in on the niece.
No, not tonight. I'm very grateful for your help, Ivan, but not tonight. Ivan's going now.
So early? Well, I'm glad you could come at all.
It's been enchanting. Let me know when you've completed that matter we spoke of.
I shall send it to you in the morning.
Ivan, I wanted to talk to you for a minute about the club. I wanted to give you some advice.
I'm in a great hurry. I really haven't the time. If you'll excuse me, I really haven't a minute. Good night, Cleopatra. Au revoir.
Nonsense. I'll give you advice on the way out.
Well, I've settled it. A job for you, and a very good one, too, in the civil service.
Why did you do it? I'd never ask you to do a thing like this for me.
You no need to. I guessed.
Thank you, thank you.
Wait! Where are you going?
To find Mama. I'm so happy. I must share my happiness with her.
Are you sure you're happy, Igor?
As happy as I could ever hope to be.
Do you mean there's something lacking to make your happiness complete?
There's nothing more I dare hope for.
Now come, be frank with me. What do you want more than anything in the world?
I have a job in the civil service. What more could a man ask?
I don't believe it. Not for a moment. You expect me to believe that you, Igor, with your eyes, your brow, are a common materialist who wants nothing more than life than a weekly salary and a job in the civil service?
Cleopatra.
You expect me to believe that your heart never beats, that you never cry, never dream, never lie awake at nights, that you love no one?
No, I didn't say that, Cleopatra.
Then you do love someone. I knew it, and she doesn't love you in return. Who is she? Who is this cruel woman?
Oh my God, Cleopatra, this is agony.
Tell me, Igor, I insist. I know it all. I can see it in your eyes.
Don't. I can't bear it. In a minute, I shall have to tell you. It's not fair of you to try and trick me like this.
Who is she? Who is it that you love?
Have pity on me for the love of heaven.
Is she worthy of you?
Oh my God, what are you doing to me?
Is she capable of responding to your passion? Can she understand your noble, suffering heart?
Kill me. Kill me with your own hands, but I dare not tell you.
Whisper. Only whisper the name.
The name of the woman I love?
Yes.
You. Beat me, kill me, punish me in any way you will. Only don't send me away from you. It's all your own fault. Force me to be silent. Tell me I'm to be cold and distant to you. Forbid me to even look at you. Only I beg you, don't be angry with me. This is your fault. Why were you so kind, so enchanting, so gracious to me? If you'd been cruel and harsh, I might have been able to keep my passion within the bounds of decency. But you heavenly, adorable woman, angel of goodness that you are, have turned me, a sane, reasonable man, into a crazy madman. Yes, I am mad. I am no longer responsible for my actions. One moment longer with you and I don't know what I might do. Oh my God. What have I said? Forgive me. Forgive me.
I forgive you, Igor.
No, I won't set foot outside the house again today.
But Auntie, please, Auntie.
Not for anything in the world. It'd be sheer madness. Besides, I have the horses unharnessed. Oh, I'm quite exhausted.
Aren't you going for a drive, dear? I told you she'd be ill today. I saw it in the cards.
Yes, she told me.
Auntie's not ill. What is the matter, Auntie darling? It's the first time in months we've been for a drive. We barely get 10 yards past the gate, and we have to turn back again.
Why run into danger when it's not necessary?
But what danger? I didn't see any.
Surely, dear, I'm beginning to wonder whether you're quite right in the head. You must have seen that white cat cross the path in front of us as we came out of the gates.
It crossed the path in front of you?
From the right or the left?
From the left!
You poor dear, it must have given you a shock.
I wanted to give the orders to stop, but I thought, no, I must be brave. It's no good giving in.
She's always the same. She will carry on whatever happens. Never thinks of herself. She must be more careful.
It was Mashenka I was thinking of. My heart was right up in my throat, but I wouldn't say anything, so
We drove on, and we hadn't gone more than a few yards, when suddenly I saw coming down the road towards us a man in a brown hat.
On the left or the right side of the road?
I've told you before, I will not have you making fun of these things.
Well, as if it can make any difference.
You know quite well it's a sign of terrible misfortune. I won't have this free thinking in my house, Mashinka. You can go to your room if you persist. There's quite enough blasphemy from the guests that come here. I have to put up with that, but I won't put up with it from you. Surely, Mashinka, it's our duty to preserve our lives. What's the purpose in signs and warnings if we're merely to ignore them? Look at the dreadful accidents one hears about nowadays. The horses bolt, the carriage overturns, the coachman gets drunk and lands in a ditch. If God takes the trouble to send us a sign, 2 signs in fact, telling us not to go out today, the least we can do is take notice of them.
But God didn't tell us not to go out today.
Surely, dear, it's... Surely, Mashinka, this free thinking in a child of your age, if there were a vital necessity to go out, it would be a different matter, but to risk one's life merely to spend an evening in empty conversation or discussing one's neighbors? No, I don't think so. Matriosha, Lubinka, go into the morning room. I know quite well why you're so keen on going there today. You're hoping to meet Igor Kirchev, who's nothing but an atheist and whom I will not allow in my house. And so you're willing to drag your poor aunt there, not giving a thought to the fact that I may break an arm or a leg just so that you can enjoy yourself.
I don't understand why you dislike Igor so much.
Because he laughs at the most sacred things in my presence.
But when, Auntie, when?
Continually. He's always laughing at the holy pilgrims that come here. He even laughs at my having poor Matriosha and Lubinka as companions.
But you said he laughed at sacred things.
Well, of course he does. Only the other day I was saying, look, my Matriosha's face is beginning to shine with saintliness. And do you know what he dared to say to me? It's not with saintliness, he said. It's with grease. And I won't forgive that sort of remark. And that's what free thinking leads to. No, I seldom make a mistake in people, and you see what sort of man he's turned out to be. I received 2 more letters about him yesterday. You could read them if you like.
I know, but Auntie, surely you don't take notice of anonymous letters.
If there were one, I might not, but several, and from different people.
Those tramps are downstairs again.
Tramps? I don't know whom you're referring to. You don't mean my holy pilgrims, do you?
Tramps, I call them, madame.
It's quite enough, Grigori. Take them to the kitchen and see that they're given a good meal. Here you are. Here's another. Obviously written by a most trustworthy woman. Dear Madam, though I've not the pleasure of... Here you are, listen. I am filled with horror at your choice of a creature like Igor Kirchev, and I wonder what will happen to poor Mashinka. Do you realize he's a well-known liberal, and so on and so on?
May I see? Isn't it extraordinary? I just don't know what to think of it.
If you persist in going your own way, dear, I shall do nothing to stop you. Nobody shall say I've treated you like a tyrant, but you know what very deep distress you're causing me, and you can hardly complain if I...
Don't give me a dowry?
But more important still, dear, my blessing.
Don't worry, Auntie. I wouldn't dream of marrying without a dowry. I like Igor Kirchev very much, but if you won't give me one, then there's no more to be said. I shan't pine away or go into a decline. But Auntie, darling, please try to understand how I feel. I'm quite well off, thanks to you, but I want to enjoy myself, to get something out of life.
I know, dear.
I'll marry anybody you find for me, as long as he's not too boring. I want to go about in society. After all, I'm quite pretty. I want to be admired. But the tedium of living as we do, Auntie, it's too much, you must admit.
Oh, one can't be cross with you at your age.
I know I shall live exactly your sort of life when I'm older. It's in the family.
I only pray that you do, darling. I pray with all my soul. It's the right road. It's the straight road.
I know, but Auntie, I must have a good time first. Please, can't you arrange a marriage for me?
It's so difficult nowadays. The young men are so spoiled.
Oh dear. Surely there must be someone in Moscow. Couldn't you ask one of your friends, Mr. Gorodlin or Mr. Gritsitsky or Mr. Mamayev? They'd be delighted to help you find a husband for me.
They're only human beings. They can be misled and they can mislead other people.
Well, then what are we to do?
We must wait for a sign. I shan't make any decisions until we receive some special sign.
And where's this sign to come from?
You'll know soon enough when the time comes. Today, perhaps.
Auntie, don't forbid him the house. Do let him come here.
Who?
Igor Korchev.
As long as you realize he's not the man for you.
Whatever you say, Auntie. I'm your obedient, dutiful little niece.
Your dear child.
I'm determined to be rich and lead a happy life. You used to lead a happy life, didn't you, Auntie?
I can't remember.
Oh, but Auntie, you did. A very, very happy life.
Oh, well, you know quite a bit, I see, but whatever you do know, darling, I'd rather you didn't know anymore.
I think you're the very best woman in the world, and I want to base my life off of yours. I shall have the best of the best times, and then repent. Sin and repent. Just like you.
I don't know what you're talking about, Mashenka.
Mr. Krutitsky, madame.
Show him in. Oh, my head's aching with all your prattle, darling. Go and amuse yourself in the garden or the library. I shall see Mr. Krutitsky alone.
All right. Just don't forget to ask him, will you?
Ask him what?
If he knows of a young man for me.
All right, my pet, run away, run away.
Mr. Krutitsky.
What a pleasant surprise.
You're very pale, my dear. Nerves bad again?
My nerves are in a dreadful state.
Your hands are cold too. I wish you'd give up all this.
Give up what?
Too much religion's bad for the nerves.
I told you before. I don't want to discuss it with you.
I'm only saying that when you went about and enjoyed yourself, you were a different woman. Why? I recall one occasion.
Oh, don't remind me of it.
Why not? There was a lot that was very good in your old life. And if there ever happened to have been a few things that, well, that you'd rather not think about now, I'm sure you've aptly atoned for them. Personally, I look back on some of them with a great deal of pleasure. Far from repenting, I like to go back and recall every detail and enjoy them again. Do you recall that one occasion when...
Stop! Yes, what is it, Krugery?
There's more of those tramps downstairs now.
Oh. How dare you refer to a holy pilgrim like that? You should be ashamed of yourself. Take him to the kitchen and see that he's given a good meal. The ignorance of these servants.
Well, as I was saying, when you lived a different life, you were much healthier.
Physically, I may have been. Not spiritually.
Well, at any rate, you looked healthier then. But you're still young. You have plenty of time to enjoy yourself.
I have no desire for that sort of enjoyment.
If I were you, I should postpone repenting until my looks started to go.
I've already asked you not to.
Sorry, I won't.
There is another one of those tramps downstairs now.
I've told you already, you're not to refer to them like that. Take him to the kitchen and see that he's given a good meal.
I won't go into the kitchen, madame. Not with them in there. I can't stand the stench.
Do as I tell you at once.
You ought to be more careful whom you allow into your house.
I'm quite capable of looking after myself.
Well, be careful, that's all, my dear. It's a well-known fact that a woman who gets into religion is fair game for all kinds of charlatans and swindlers. It's very easy to be taken advantage of.
Are you saying I wouldn't know if someone were trying to deceive me? Are you saying God wouldn't send me some sort of sign? Why, only today I was saved from the most dreadful accident. If it hadn't been for God warning me not to go out, why, the carriage would have overturned and I should be lying in the road, a mangled corpse with broken arms and legs.
Well, as you didn't go out, how do you know the carriage would have overturned?
There are simply some things one can't discuss with you. Let's not talk of it. Will you give me your advice on a very important matter?
With pleasure. I'm always glad to be of service to you. What is it?
You know, Mashenka's reached the age when she...
Yes, I know.
Do you know the young man for her?
None of me to approve of, I'm afraid.
That's trouble.
Wait, I know of the perfect young fellow.
Really?
Yes, he's extremely charming, rather shy and diffident, has the right ideas and comes of a good family. He was recommended to me for a small job I needed done. So I put him through his paces, and I can tell you now he's the most exceptional young fellow.
But who is he?
Oh, what is his name? Lord, what a memory. Wait, he gave me his address. Ah, here it is. Igor Glumov. Nice round hand, even lettering. That means he's methodical. No flourishes. That means he's not a free thinker. Here, keep it. It might be of use to you.
Thank you.
Yes, I hope it comes to something. One likes to help out the young people. Oh, look at the time. I must be getting along. May I call again, or are you angry with me?
You know I'm always glad to see you.
If I weren't fond of you, I wouldn't speak so frankly.
Do come again.
For old time's sake? Well, I'd better be getting along before it costs me dead. Au revoir.
At his age, too. Has he gone? Mashenka, you've not been eavesdropping.
Of course not. Did he think of anyone for me?
Mr. Grodelin, madame.
Show him in.
I'm sure he'll know of somebody. Don't forget to ask him, will you? Anybody you like, he just mustn't be too tedious.
Mr. Grodelin.
Well, aren't you ashamed of yourself? Where have you been hiding all these weeks?
I haven't had a moment. Business appointments, official dinners, then there was the opening of the railway.
I don't believe a word of it. I just think you find it dull here. Anyways, it's nice of you to call and see me sometimes. Just sit down. I've been hoping for some news from you.
News? Of what?
You don't mean to tell me you've forgotten? Oh, that's charming. That's really kind of you. I'm sorry. I forgot a person with such important appointments to attend to could hardly find the time to worry about the poor and oppressed. Such trivialities are beneath your notice, of course.
This is the first I've heard of the poor and oppressed. I remember you asked me to make some inquiries about some fortune teller.
Nothing of the sort. A clairvoyant. There's a great difference. I would never have gone to a fortune teller.
Sorry, I admit my ignorance of these subtle differences. Well, anyway, it was about Ulita Shmigaiva, widow of an old clothes dealer.
Her social status has nothing to do with it. She's a most remarkable woman, and I'm proud, yes, proud that she has granted her special favors to me.
She's granted most of those to a discharged sailor.
That's the most disgusting slander. She's been received in the best houses in Moscow. It's envy, it's jealousy, that's all it is. Oh, the world's too evil to live in, but she'll be acquitted. You'll see, God will vindicate her.
I'm afraid she'll have to tell fortunes in Siberia now.
So that's your famous court of justice? To send an innocent woman to Siberia? For what? For doing good to others?
But she's been convicted of fortune telling.
I'll tell you what it is. It's all part of a plot to turn us into atheists. Oh, yes, you can laugh, but mark my words. She was convicted because she was believed. As I would be convicted if some people had their way.
Well, even beyond fortune telling, she was accused of receiving stolen goods, keeping a brothel, and poisoning a commercial traveler.
I don't believe a word of it. Who? Who said so?
It's the solemn truth. The commercial traveler's wife went to her to have her fortune told, and came away with a recipe that was guaranteed to reawaken her husband's passion. Well, she brewed this concoction according to the instructions, but she'd forgotten one thing, to ask permission of the Ministry of Health.
Well, what happened to the commercial traveler?
It worked. He died, but not from love.
I suppose you find that funny. There were plenty of people to plot against the poor woman, but no one to defend her.
Not at all. She had the best lawyer in Moscow. A positive torrent of eloquence flowed through the court, overflowed the banks, and finally quieted down to a scarcely audible whisper. But all to no purpose, because she confessed, after the discharged sailor had given her away.
I'd never have believed it. It only shows how easily one can be mistaken in people. It's impossible to live in this world.
It's not impossible, but it is difficult unless one can see it clearly as it is. There have been great strides in studies of mental diseases
I
and hallucinations.
don't want to discuss the subject.
Sorry, I forgot.
Let me be mistaken in people. Let me be deceived. My only happiness is in helping the poor and oppressed.
There is another dirty old tramp downstairs.
What, another?
I don't understand what you're referring to.
Oh, I'm sorry. A holy pilgrim.
That's better. What's he like?
Well, he scared me. He gave me a terrible turn. He gives you a turn just to look at him even.
What do you mean gives you a turn? What nonsense.
Well, he's so fierce looking. He's all covered in hair. All you can see are his eyes.
He must be an Italian.
If you ask me, he's a proper Hungarian.
A Hungarian?
That's right, madame.
Well, take him to the kitchen, see that he's given a good meal, and ask him if there's anything he needs.
They're getting very noisy in there, madame. One of them's got a bottle of vodka, and he's...
Do as I say at once.
Yes, madame.
Spare me your humorous comments, Ivan. Listen, I want to ask you something. It's about Mashenka. Do you know the young man for her?
I hardly think I'm the right person to come to. You can't say I look like a matchmaker. I'm against any form of chains, even matrimonial ones.
But you wear them yourself.
That's why I wouldn't condemn my worst enemy to wear them.
Seriously, though, can you think of anyone?
Wait a minute. I did meet someone the other day who had ideal husband written in large letters across his forehead.
Who was it? Do try and remember.
Oh, yes. Glumov.
Is he a good young man?
He's thoroughly trustworthy, I'm sure. I think he's a very nice fellow.
Wait, what did you say his name was?
Glumov.
Igor?
Yes.
How extraordinary. Anton Krutitsky only mentioned him to me just now.
Well, that must mean he's the right man. He can't escape his fate. Otherwise, destiny would have been more tactful. Well, I must go.
Well, goodbye. I won't keep you from all of your important appointments.
Let me know if my matchmaking proves successful.
Of course. And thank you for the advice. Goodbye. Igor Glumov. Igor Glumov. Matyosha Lubinka. I don't know what to think. Both Mr. Krutitsky and Mr. Groneland suggested the same young man to me, but I haven't the confidence in either of them. Still, there must be something to it if they both think highly of him. I can't sleep at night for wondering what will happen to poor Mashenka. If I make a mistake, the sin is on my own head. I wonder if this Madame Maniefa can advise me. I think there's something very supernatural about her, don't you?
Oh, yes. They say that Peter the Great came to her in a cloud, and she gave one look at a lady with a toothache, and her tooth stopped aching. Shall I lay the cards out, dear?
In a minute. Listen. What's that? It sounds like gypsies.
It's those pilgrims, dear.
Auntie, those pilgrims are having a party out in the yard. Mari and Vosh and the new cook are all dancing with them.
Oh, the world's too evil for me.
May I go and watch?
No, Mashenka, stay here. I want to talk to you.
What did Mr. Grodlin say?
Well, it's very strange, but both he and Mr. Krutitsky suggested the same young man for you.
How wonderful! He's bound to be nice then.
But I don't entirely trust them.
Shall I start, dear?
Yes, tell my fortune. See if they spoke the truth. No, I don't trust them. They could easily be mistaken.
But why, Auntie darling?
Because they're ordinary human beings.
Who will you ever believe then? Nothing will ever get settled. It quite frightens me.
Of course it does, darling. You should feel frightened. How can we raise even a corner of the veil that hides our future without feeling afraid? Behind that veil lie your happiness, your unhappiness, your life, and your death.
But who's going to raise it for us?
There is someone in Moscow, one living being who has the power.
There's someone to see you, madame.
Oh, who is it?
She says her name's Madame Maniefa.
Show her in at once. It's she, Mashenka. How extraordinary. Her coming just at this moment, as if she knew what was happening, could read our thoughts. Oh, come in, please come in. We do expect such an honor. Matyosha Lubinka, lead Madame Maniefa to a chair.
There is holiness when she who is holy brings her holiness to the Holy One.
Oh, did you hear that, Logan?
Be quiet! She came like a bird and went like another bird.
Oh, Matryoshka, did you hear that? Isn't she wonderful? Did you hear that, dear?
Who do you think you're staring at?
We're all so happy that you've come to visit us. God grant we're not too unworthy.
Yes, God grant we're not. Oh, you're not, dear. She's a saint if ever there was one.
Listen, she's going to speak.
Oh my God, it's spirits descending into her. Oh, my holy father.
Support her, hold her hands. If she gets a shock, she might die.
They expected her in slippers, but she came in boots.
Remember that. Don't forget what she said.
Memorizing somebody. She's going to speak. I wanted to ask you.
The one who knows runs, but the one who doesn't lies down. One girl less, one woman more.
Oh my God, is it
we humbly ask if you see a young man in your vision? Don't you see a young man?
I see a cloud. The cloud is shifting. In the center of the cloud is Igor!
Igor! Did you hear that, dear? Auntie, that's Mr. Korchaev's name. Don't be so silly. May we humbly ask, who is Igor?
When you see, you will know.
But when shall we see him?
A guest who is wanted need not be invited.
There you are, dear. But how can we recognize him?
Ask what color his hair is.
Is he dark or is he fair?
To some he is fair, but to you he is dark.
Mr. Korchaev's dark, Auntie! Don't be so silly, as if a hussar could appear in a vision.
Oh, it's wonderful. Even the card said it was Igor.
What do you mean that's what the card said? How can you see a name in the cards?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. I meant I saw a dark man in the cards, dear.
She's going to speak again.
The stranger is far away, but the one who is coming is at the gate.
At the gate?
Get ready, prepare the banquet. The visitors are coming.
When?
Now! They are here.
Mr. Mamey, to see you, madame.
Hello?
There's a young gentleman with him, madame.
A dark young gentleman?
That's right, madame.
Oh, isn't it wonderful? I can't believe it. It's like a dream. Hushing, darling, my prayers have been answered.
It's all so peculiar, Auntie. I'm trembling all over.
Madame Maniefa, are you all right?
Where am I?
You're amongst friends. You've had a vision.
Oh, I'll be all right once I've had a drop of something in me.
Lead her to the dining room and see that she's given tea.
Oh, tea's no good after a vision.
Vodka then, wine, anything.
Oh, wait, we must have a glimpse of him, just one glimpse.
It's a miracle, that's what I say, dear, a miracle.
Madame Torsina, allow me to introduce my good nephew, Igor Glumov.
Exactly as she described, dark hair and all.
He's a good lad. You'll like him.
I shall love him as my own self.
Mama, aren't you going to Madame Torsina's?
All right, I'm coming. What's the hurry?
You're late. You should be there first thing in the morning every day. You ought practically to live there.
I do my best. I can't do more. I'm worn out with it. For the love of God, go out and do the shopping. Nothing to eat in the house as usual. This place will go to rack and ruin with me out all day. What are you writing in that diary now?
Another stupid conversation with Mr. Krutitsky. Heaven knows how I remember it all.
Heaven knows what Cleopatra's gonna say when she finds out you're engaged. Has she found out?
I don't know. I wish I had. Then I know how to handle her.
Yes, it's very worrying.
We don't want her upsetting everything just when you're getting us back on our feet again.
You get on your feet down to Smirnoff's and get some provisions in, lazy dolt!
Anything particular you fancy, sir?
No. Get another bottle of vodka in case Madame Maniefa comes in.
Don't think you could let me have something off that 400 rubles, sir.
Put down a tip for yourself on the account.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm going.
Just a minute, Mama. Are you bosom friends with Madame Torsina's companions?
More or less.
And the servants and pilgrims, the whole of them and not?
Yes, they tell me anything.
Well, don't leave anything to chance. On your way there, you ought to buy 2 snuff boxes for Matryoshka and Lubinka.
All right, I will.
And keep an eye on everyone who walks into the house. Watch out for any suspicious characters from our point of view.
All right. Goodbye.
Goodbye. And for heaven's sake, get them to hurry up with the reception.
Which reception?
Don't be stupid, Mama. For the formal announcement of the engagement.
They say it can't be for another 2 weeks at least.
Let's see. What was I going to put? Yes, expenses. 2 snuff boxes for Matryoshka and Binka. Oh, Mr. Krutitsky, come in. This is a great honor.
The paper's waiting for my article. They must have it this morning.
I have it ready for you. I hope you'll find it satisfactory. We live very humbly, I'm afraid. Here.
Excellent. Good rough hand, thoroughly legible. Treatise, though. I don't like that. It should be plan.
I thought the word plan gave the impression that you were suggesting something new, whereas the whole point of the article is that you're opposed to anything new. And quite rightly so.
So you think treatise is better?
Much.
Very well. A treatise on the betterment of the Russian peoples by the immediate abolition of all progressive ideas. Don't you think that all is perhaps a little strong?
But that's the theme of your article, isn't it? That all reforms, all progressive ideas are harmful?
I'm not against infinitesimal changes here and there.
But then they wouldn't be reforms. They'd be modifications.
True, most penetrating. I'm very pleased with you, young man. You should go far.
Thank you, Mr. Krutitsky.
Well, I'm most interested to see how you've commenced the exposition of my principal thesis. Every progressive idea is harmful. How is the progressive idea translated into action? A. By the abolition of something old. B. By the introduction of something new. By sweeping away the old, we create an opportunity in which the dangerous keenness of the human brain might penetrate the reasons why this or that is being swept away. This inevitably leads to dissatisfaction with the current state of affairs and can lead to discussions in which the government of the country might be criticized. It is clear, therefore, that progressive ideas can only be viewed with abhorrence by anyone who has the welfare of his country at heart.
And quite true.
In admitting these new ideas, we are making an unnecessary concession to the so-called spirit of the times. Yes, very good. I think this should prove very popular.
I must apologize for something. There are a few words and expressions I've left exactly as you wrote them.
Oh, yes?
I thought our modern way of writing too weak to express the full splendor of your thoughts.
For instance, give me an example.
Well, the passage about the position of minor officials in the civil service.
Yes?
You most forcibly express the excellent idea that minor officials and clerks in the civil service should not have their salaries raised, nor their living conditions improved. That on the contrary, it's the heads of departments and ministers who should have their salaries raised.
I don't recall saying that.
You did, Mr. Krutitsky. I know the whole paragraph by heart, and not only that, but the whole article.
Excellent. Well, tell me what I said in this paragraph.
The raising of civil servants' salaries should be done with the greatest care, and should be granted only to heads of departments and ministers, on no account to minor officials and clerks. No subordinate civil servant should be contented or well-fed, as this might lead to his acquiring a dignity and self-respect wholly out of keeping with the position to which God has called him. This applies equally to workers of all classes.
Yes, very good. Have you shown this to your cousin, your uncle as you call him?
Mr. Mamayev?
Yes.
Good heavens, no.
Well, make sure you don't. The man pretends to be intelligent, but he's a complete idiot.
I wouldn't argue with you on that point, Mr. Krutitsky.
He goes around telling everyone how to do things, but let him try to write something. We'd soon see. And I wouldn't say his wife was remarkable for her brains either.
I wouldn't argue with you on that either.
How you get on with them, I can't understand.
It's simply a case of necessity.
Are you in the civil service?
Not yet, but my aunt spoke to Ivan Gorodolin about it.
What a fine sort of man to go to. A fine post to get from him. Surely you want something permanent. I suppose you have a perfectly clean record?
A clean record, Mr. Krutitsky.
I must be able to recommend you in all good faith.
Well, I was very lazy at the university, I'm afraid.
Far worse if you learned too much. Isn't there anything more important?
I hardly like to tell you, Mr. Krutitsky.
Come on, better make a clean breast of it.
Well, I confess I spent some rather riotous evenings. I sowed 1 or 2 wild oats and even been in some scraps with the police.
Is that all?
Oh, Mr. Krutitsky, I sincerely hope so.
Well, a young fellow at a university is expected to get drunk and smash up a few things and occasionally get in scraps with the police. It isn't as if you came from the lower classes. Yes, I should be quite easy in my mind about you. Frankly, I can tell you now, I've spoken very highly of you in a certain quarter.
I know. Madame Torresina told me. I can hardly find the words to tell you how grateful I am.
Have you proposed yet? There's a lot of money attached to the niece.
I'm so stupid about money, but I'm quite enchanted with Mashenka.
Well, I couldn't tell you about that. They're all the same to me. I know the aunt's a terrible humbug.
Nobody believes in true love nowadays, but I do. I felt it in my own heart.
You mustn't give way to it. That's a fatal mistake. I was foolish enough to fall in love once. It was about 40 years ago. I nearly died of love. I was staying in Omsk at the time. Why are you looking at me like that?
I was feeling for you, Mr. Krutitsky. I know what you must have suffered.
Yes, I was in a terrible state. They thought I had scarlet fever. Well, a young man like you deserves the best out of life. We'll soon find you an important position. Although you're a youngster, I consider that you're one of us. Your support will be invaluable in combating this new wave of dangerous thinking. Now, how much do I owe you for your work?
Please, Mr. Krutitsky, I shall be offended.
No. Tell me or I shall be offended.
Well, if you insist, I wouldn't dream of taking money from you, but there is something you could do for me.
Yes? What is it?
Marriage is such a tremendous step for a man to take. And I beg you, don't refuse me. The blessing of a man like you would be a sort of guarantee of happiness. Just to know you, Mr. Krutitsky, is a happiness in itself. And the idea of a relationship, even though it were spiritual, would mean a tremendous lot to any children Mashenka and I may have.
You want me to become godfather to your children, is that the idea?
Oh, if only you would.
Yes, of course.
May I tell Madame Torsina?
Yes, tell her by all means. Oh my goodness, we've been sitting here talking and the paper should have been at the Moscow Gazette half an hour ago.
My servant's out, I'm afraid. Let me get a cab and take it down myself.
There's a good man. Now, look here. As you know, it's to be published anonymously, so don't speak a word of it to anyone. If anyone asks you who wrote it, you pretend you don't know. Now, hurry along. I haven't got young legs like you. I'll catch up.
Very well. Thank you very, very much for what you've done for me, Mr. Krutitsky.
I'm indebted to you too. Goodbye.
Oh, what are you doing here?
I came to see your young cousin. How are you, my dear lady?
Where's Igor?
He'll be back presently. Now, if you'll excuse me, I was just on my way out.
No, you must stay and talk to me. You're an unchivalrous old gentleman. Aren't you interested in the young ladies nowadays?
No, my day's over, I'm afraid. Though in time I had quite the reputation for... Well, I think it's time I made way for the young men.
Well, they're worse than the old ones nowadays.
Now come, a charming woman like yourself.
They're very disappointing.
Yes, there are no noble feelings, no poetic flights of passion nowadays. Shall I tell you the reason? They don't give enough tragedies in the theaters. They ought to revive the plays of Ozerov. The young people of today would assimilate those fine, delicate feelings. In my time, we knew all the great plays by heart. And nowadays, they don't even know how to read them. That's why we had chivalry and fine feelings in our time, and today, all they care about is money. Must I wait for fate to cut short my days when those days are so lacking in laughter? Do you remember?
Yes, of course I remember. 50 years ago. I would remember, wouldn't I?
I'm terribly sorry. I always think of you as my contemporary. Oh, I was meaning to say, I'm quite enchanted with your young cousin, a most exceptional young fellow.
I think so too.
But you mustn't spoil him.
Spoil me.
Wait, I think I've remembered some more. O gods, 'tis not the gift of oratory I crave, but for the language of the heart and soul.
How do I spoil him?
Well, by arranging such a fine marriage, of course. What a charming girl she is, too.
Charming girl. What?
Oh, mother, dry your flow of tears. And sister, hide your signs of grief.
What girl? What are you talking about? Whom do you mean?
Good heavens, Mashenka, of course. Madame Torosina's niece. As if you didn't know. 20,000 dowry.
Oh my God, I can't believe it. It's not true.
Your soul was sick when you heard the news, and you hid in your breast your sighs. But gloomy grief was upon your brow.
Oh, stop with this awful reciting. I shall go mad.
Yes, the boy seems to have a heart too. Don't think it's about the money, Mr. Krutitsky, he said. He asked me to become godfather to his children. It would be such an honor for them, he said. Oh, why not? It's not about the dowry, he said. I really love the girl. She's an angel. An angel. And he said it with such feeling. It did my heart good.
Oh,
What's wrong?
I'm ill. It's a migraine.
Oh, you'll soon get over that. You remember that beautiful line? Thou accusest me, my rival, of betrayal of thy woman.
Stop! Get out! I can't stand it! I shall go mad. I can't stand it!
My dear lady, I...
Go away! Get out! Go! Oh my God! I can't believe it. Oh. Oh. Perhaps
Wonder if there's something here. Some love letters, perhaps. I should do something dreadful to him. If it's true, I will. I will. Oh, God, pray that it's the dreadful old Grotowski making mischief. What's this? His diary.
Cleopatra, what a wonderful surprise. Is it really you here in my poor little humble home, like a goddess descended from the skies?
I came to call on your mother.
You've just missed her. She went out a few moments ago, I'm afraid.
What a pity.
Do sit down. You're going to stay and talk to me, aren't you, Cleopatra? You look unhappy. Are you worried about something?
About someone.
Who is it? Anyone who could make you unhappy must be a black-hearted wretch.
Yes. That's what he is. A black-hearted wretch.
Well, as I'm neither black-hearted nor a wretch, it must mean that...
The what?
That at least it can't be me.
Can I really believe that?
You must believe it.
I want to. I want to.
Look into my eyes. Can't you see there that I'd rather die than cause you a moment's pain? Until I met you, I was a shy, timid boy, always uncertain of myself and troubled with longings and desires which you, and you alone, have taught me to understand. I was so lonely that I thought I might lose my reason sometimes, and I was always searching for the one woman in the world upon whom I could pin my dreams and hopes. But I was poor, insignificant, and women turned away from me. And then I met you. I'll never forget the first time I saw you. You were wearing that beautiful pink dress with the brown bows on. My heart missed a beat, then started to pound so violently I thought I might faint. You were so young, so beautiful, so far, far above me. When we were first introduced, I hardly dared to speak, but you didn't turn away from me. You weren't cold and cruel like the other great society ladies of today. You were kind and gracious, and when I told you I loved you, Cleopatra, you listened. Oh, if only you knew how many times your sweet, gentle smile has stopped me on the very brink of impropriety. But even that day when I forgot myself, you didn't turn me from the house. Oh my God, what happiness you've given me! What happiness!
When are you going to be married?
Married? What do you mean?
I understand you're getting married.
Cleopatra, I must explain it to you. I was going to tell you today. I'm in a terrible dilemma. Your husband wants me to marry. It was his idea. I loathe the very thought of it.
He must be very fond of you to want to make you happy against your will.
It's simply a question of money. He hates the idea of my being poor. He wants to see me independent and comfortably situated, instead of just a poor nobody. It all comes from the goodness of his heart, but unfortunately he didn't consult my feelings.
Do you like the young woman he's chosen for you?
She's repugnant to me. Any woman is but you.
So you don't love her?
How could I? But I daren't show her, of course. Whom should I deceive? Her or you?
Both, perhaps.
You're torturing me with your suspicions. I can't bear it. I shall stop the whole thing.
Stop it. How?
Let Uncle be angry with me. I will not marry that girl. I will tell him so.
Do you really mean that?
I will tell him today.
Oh, you must. For without love, whatever sort of marriage could it be?
And to think, you thought so badly of me. Aren't you ashamed of yourself?
I've misunderstood you. I'm ashamed.
I'm yours, Cleopatra. You must know that. Only don't breathe a word to Uncle or anyone, or you might give yourself away. Just leave everything to me.
Of course, of course.
It's all come about from my cursed shyness. I was afraid to tell Uncle I wouldn't marry. I just kept on saying, well, there's no hurry. We'll see. And so on. And this is what's come of it. Oh, who's that? I suspected someone to see me. Cleopatra, you must be exhausted with all these fearful emotions. Why don't you lie down in Mother's room? I'll get rid of these visitors as quickly as I can.
Thank you, Igor. I couldn't bear to face anyone at the moment.
Well?
Firstly, this is hardly the way to receive a guest. And secondly, I'm tired because I walked here.
What do you want?
25 rubles minimum. You can pay me more if you want. I shan't be offended.
Look here. Who gave you the idea that I was a charitable institution?
I'm not asking for charity. I've done a lot of work on your part, and I expect to be paid for it.
What work?
Writing your biography.
What are you talking about?
I've followed you, watched you, collected information about you and your past history. I've described your recent activities with a wealth of interesting detail. And unless you care to purchase the manuscript from me, I shall send it off to the Moscow Weekly Chatterbox with your portrait enclosed. You see, I'm not asking for much. I don't put a high value on my literary work.
Very well. Publish it. Don't think you can intimidate me. Do you think anyone will want to read what you write?
But it's not as if I was asking 1,000 rubles. I know I can't do you very much harm, but still might be quite painful. So why not pay?
Is a very ugly word for what you're trying to do.
Do you consider it less honest than sending anonymous letters?
What letters? How can you prove it?
No need to get so excited. All I'm asking for is 25 rubles.
Not 1 kopeck.
You're marrying a rich, young, beautiful woman. Suppose she were to read your biography and go, much simpler to pay up instead of quarreling with me. I could eat for a week, and you could have peace of mind. Really, I'm asking very little.
But suppose I do pay? That wouldn't be the end of it.
I give you my word it would. What do you take me for?
Get out. Go on.
Very well. And the very next issue...
Whichever issue you like.
Well, look here. Let's say we make it 20 rubles instead. That's not much.
Not 1 kopeck.
All right, then. Have it your own way. Haven't got a cigarette, have you?
No. Do you mind getting out of here?
When I'm ready. I'll have a rest first.
Who sent you here? Korchev?
Oh, no. We've quarreled. I've finished with him.
I asked you to get out.
What have you got in there?
Who's that? What is it?
I give you 1 minute.
Cleopatra. Most interesting.
Are you going?
You're such a rotten character yourself. You can't recognize decent feelings in other people.
Just a minute. I want a word with you.
That's funny. Who's that, I wonder? The diary! Perhaps there's something about me in it. Or Mshenka. Here's something. Mshenka is enchanting. What a relief after poor old Auntie Cleo, who looks exactly like a horse! Oh! Oh my God! I feel ill. I'm going to faint. Oh, how low! How low of him! I'll never forgive him! Never! I'll make
fucking pay for it. To think he should have done this to me! But he can't mean it. I don't look like a horse. I know I don't. My husband doesn't think I look like a horse. There's no humiliation bad enough for him. I'll make him crawl back to me on his hands and knees and beg for forgiveness. That's what I'll do. Yes. And I can, too. This. My God. I must remain calm. I mustn't let him see anything.
A most impossible person.
Who was it?
I'll throw him down the stairs next time. He's written an abusive article about me and has the cheek to come here demanding money for it. Says he'll have it published otherwise.
How horrible. What horrible people there are in this world. Who was this man?
Why do you want to know?
Well, it's best to be warned about people like that.
Alexander Galutfin, his name is.
Where does he live?
I don't know. One could easily find out. Why?
Well, suppose someone were to affront me. It would be a way of revenging myself. Women can't fight duels, you know.
You're joking, aren't you?
Yes, of course. Did you give him any money?
Only a few rubles, but I feel easier in my mind.
Suppose one of your enemies were to give him more.
Enemies? I haven't any.
Well, then you've nothing to worry about. Poor darling boy, has he upset you?
Oh, I'm not worried about him.
What is it then?
I'm still miserable at the thought of your mistrusting me.
Have you quite made up your mind not to marry Mashenka?
You know I have.
You realize fully what you're giving up.
Money. I can do without that if it means losing you.
It's a lot of money, though. 20,000, remember.
Do you think I'd change you for all the wealth in the world?
Do you really mean that?
With all my heart.
You're truly a noble character, Igor. There's no doubt about that. Come here and let me kiss you. I should go now. Your uncle will wonder what has happened to me. Goodbye, dear Igor.
Cleopatra, when will I see you again?
I shall expect you this evening.
Don't think any more of Mashenka. By that time, it will all be arranged.
Goodbye.
Till this evening. Phew, thank God that's over with. I better get off to see Mashenka. Cleopatra's all right for the moment. Galutvin's paid off. Things aren't going too badly. I'll be able to bring it off with a bit of luck. Let's see, what was I looking for? Ah, yes, my diary. Where did I put it? In the desk, of course. That's funny. I swear I put it in the desk. Oh my God, this is terrible. I know I put it in the desk. I remember now. She stole it. This'll finish everything. Suppose Galutfin took it. What a fool to have left it lying about. Why didn't I lock the drawer? Oh my God, it has gone, it has. What did I keep it for anyways? It's not as if I had any heroic deeds to record. The Memoirs of a Scoundrel. Written by himself. Well, it's no good approaching myself now. I've got enough approaches coming from everybody else. God, let me think. If it's Galutfin, I can always get it back with money. Yes, I'll have to buy it back. Suppose it's Cleopatra. No fury like a woman scorned. Oh my God, and as such she looked like a horse. I mustn't be defeated. I won't be. Not at this stage. I wonder if she's planning some horrible revenge. There's only one thing to do. Yes, Cleopatra Mamayev, I will not be defeated by you or Mr. Galutfin. So here we go, straight into the lioness's jaws. And heaven help me explain the bit about the horse.
Well, I don't understand the thing at all.
Neither can I. It all happened so suddenly. Do you think it could possibly be some deep-laid plot?
Perhaps there is something to those strange superstitions of your aunt.
I've given up trying to understand. I feel dazed by it all.
I've known him for years. I never noticed anything very special about him. I lost my temper with him once recently, when I thought he'd been running me down my uncle, but it was only my hot-headedness. He's much too decent to have done a thing like that.
One moment, we weren't aware of his existence, and the next, he became the most important thing in our lives. Ever since then, Auntie's companions invariably see him in their dreams. Whenever they tell fortunes, he comes out in the cards. Even the professional fortune tellers who come here keep seeing visions of a dark, young man named Igor, and those horrid old pilgrims do too. And then as a finishing touch, Madame Maniefa, whom I don't like a bit because she always smells of rum, but whom Auntie looks upon practically as a saint, described his appearance in detail, although she'd never set eyes upon him, and foretold the exact moment when he'd arrive at the house. And I've no answer to it all. I can't go against Auntie's wishes, and she's become absolutely devoted to him.
It all comes from me not leading a better life. Now Glumov will get you, and the money too. Virtue will be rewarded, and vice punished. Vice being me. The only thing I can do now is quietly to disappear. If it was some bounder who was getting you, I'd put up a fight. But when it's a decent chap like Glumov, I don't think I can.
Oh, they're coming. I don't want to see him now.
You see, once I realized what a deep longing I had for settled family life, I took the matter very seriously. Nothing is more abhorrent to me than the idea of marrying for money, turning what should be a sacred institution into a business transaction. The alternative is to marry for love, but even love is too much of this world. No, it must be from something higher than all this. It must be dictated by some mystic decree of fate.
Yes, that's what I always say.
By the mysterious powers lurking in the air, with which we can contact, if only we have the intelligence enough to try.
Yes, we can. I entirely agree with you.
All my life, I fought against this radical, free thinking that decries everything mystic or occult. To me, the only things that matter in the world.
Yes, exactly. That's just what I say.
I've always believed in miracles.
So have I always. How right you are.
And I realized that the only way to meet the one woman in the world who's been waiting for me since the beginning of time was through a miracle. So I prayed for one, and it happened.
It was a miracle you're coming here that day. I've always said so. Do you know, Igor, you're the only young man in Moscow that thinks as I do? Everywhere one looks, one sees nothing but hideously minded liberals. But do go on, Igor. This miracle, tell me about it.
Well, I went to a clairvoyant I know of.
Oh, Madame Maniefa?
Who? I've never heard of Madame Maniefa. No, this was someone quite different. Well, I'd entered the room, and before I'd said a word, before she even looked at me, she was sitting with her back to me, as a matter of fact. She said, "It's you who are looking for a wife. It's they who are looking for you." Go forward with your eyes closed, and you will find her.
How extraordinary. What did you say?
Well, a most peculiar feeling came over me. It's as if I were enveloped in a cloud.
In a cloud? How extraordinary. Madame Mariefa saw you in it. You were in this cloud, slowly descending.
That's it, as though in a balloon. Well, I pulled myself together, and I said, "Where shall I go? Show me." And she said, "You'll enter a strange house. You must search, and you will find. They're waiting for you." That very same evening, my cousin brought me here, and you were waiting for me.
It was undoubtedly a miracle. If only everyone could know of this, we could start a religious revival.
I remember a case like that in Kiev once. It happened to a ginger-haired fellow.
Why don't you go for a little walk in the garden?
It's so clearly a case of predestination that I'd never thought to ask of Mashenka's feelings. It seemed quite enough that she'd given her consent.
And that's all that's needed.
She may not be in love with me now, but she will be later on.
Of course she will be.
It's written in the stars that Mashenka will love me, or we'd never have been brought together in this way.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
A marriage like ours has nothing to do with ordinary human motives, so it cannot go wrong.
If only everyone in Moscow could hear you speak. You could be a great teacher, Igor. We've all something to learn from you. Every one of us, even I.
Mr. Grodolin, madame.
Oh, entertain him for a little, will you, Igor? I feel too exalted to make idle conversation. All right, Grigory, show him in. I think I'll go down into the summer house and have a look into the crystal. Perhaps we shall see something today. I thought I saw something yesterday, but when I looked closer, it was only an earwig crawling on the other side.
Oh, hello, Grunwald.
How are you?
How much money are you getting?
20,000, I believe.
How did you manage it?
But you yourself suggested me. Madame Torresina told me so.
What? Oh, yes, I remember. But how do you get on with her, an agnostic like you?
I just don't argue.
Well, what do you say to all of her unutterable bosh?
Nothing will cure her of it, so why try?
Well, you'll be a rich man soon. I'll put you up for membership of my club.
Thank you. Listen, did you hear that Krutitsky's treatise is to be published in a week or two?
Good God! I only hope it gets torn to pieces by the press.
Nothing could be easier anyways.
You could do it superbly. You're just the man with your talents. The only thing is, it might do you a lot of harm. Tell you what, why don't you write it and I'll sacrifice myself for you. I'll make out it's by me. Purely out of friendship, of course. They need showing up, these insufferable bores.
One's only to look at the trash they write.
They're figures of fun and should be exposed as such. I do it myself, only I haven't the time. You know, we need more men like you. We've plenty of good businessmen, of course, but no one who can write or speak well. So when we're attacked by the old gentlemen of Krutitsky's sort, it's most unfortunate. One or two of the younger men aren't unintelligent, but they're too young. If we let them speak, they get above themselves. No. You start the course, and we'll all chime in. Where is your fiancée, by the way?
I think she's in the garden.
I'll go and have a chat with her.
I'll come out directly. My aunt Cleopatra's coming to visit me, and she's perfectly reconciled to my marriage. Isn't that charming of her?
Igor? Igor?
Cleopatra, I'm in here.
Well, have you found it?
No. The Lutfin swears on the sacred memory of his mother that he didn't take it. He was in tears almost. I'd rather starve, he said, than do a dishonest thing like that.
Well, who could have taken it then? I'm sure you haven't left it somewhere.
Absolutely certain.
Well, perhaps your servant threw it away by mistake.
I wish to God he had.
Why? What are you so afraid of people reading?
Nothing particular. Just a few love poems, some tender lines about women's faces. I'm embarrassed at the thought of a stranger reading them.
Well, you needn't worry. Nobody is going to take any notice of love poems and tender lines. Everyone writes diaries like that. But why are you alone? Where's your fiancé?
Somewhere about. I'm not interested. You see, there's proof for you that I'm only marrying for money and position. I can't always rely on my youth to get along, you know. I've got to become a man whom people look up to and respect. Just wait till I have my own carriage with a really spanking pair of horses. Nobody notices me now, but then it'll be, who's the striking-looking man in Moscow? He must be an American. And everyone will be jealous of you,
Why of me?
because I belong to you.
It'd be much nicer if you could get the money without Mashenka. But at any rate, you'll have a charming wife.
It makes no difference to me. I told you, I've offered my hand to the bride, my pocket for the money, and my heart remains with you.
You're a dangerous person. One listens and listens, and in the end, one almost believes you.
Just think how proud you'll feel when I drive up to your house in my very own carriage.
You'll drive up often, won't you? Well, go on. You'd better go to your fiancée. You must spend as much time with her as possible, if only for appearance's sake.
You see, you're sending me to her yourself.
Yes, go on, go. Go, go, go. Yes, my friend, you're rejoicing a little too soon. You won't be so pleased with yourself when I'm finished with you. Ha ha! Where are you going, Igor?
Home.
Home? You do look sad. Wait a minute. I think I can guess what. No, wait! Oh, you are a horrid creature. I want to talk to you. There are a lot of things you're not aware of.
Please let me go, Auntie Cleopatra.
I'm going quite soon. You can see me home. Well, have you lost your tongue or something? Listen to me. I'm your aunt, and I order you to obey me. I know you love Mashenka. Does she love you in return? I'm sure of it. Well, don't give up hope yet. Life's full of surprises.
If only she had ordinary parents, instead of...
And what's the matter with her aunt?
She has such strange ideas.
What do you mean?
An ordinary fellow can't live up to them, particularly if he's in the army.
What can't an ordinary fellow live up to?
My education hasn't fitted me for it.
What are you talking about?
What Madame Torsina was trying to find for her niece was a...
Well?
I mean, I never have thought of it. I wouldn't have known there was such a thing.
A what? What?
I've never heard of a...
Do explain yourself.
She was looking for a thoroughly chaste and virtuous man.
And?
I haven't any virtues.
None. So you have only vices.
No more than any other fellow. I mean, not to speak of. I'm just an ordinary fellow. But the thought of a completely virtuous fellow. Where would she have found one if it hadn't been for Igor? He's the only one in the whole of Moscow. Miracles happen to him. He appears on the cards, he sees visions. How can a fellow compete with that?
Well, do what I tell you. Don't go yet. Wait. Oh. My dear, congratulations. You look prettier each time I see you. I'm so glad to hear you're so happy.
Mr. Glumov's such a noble character. Sometimes I feel quite frightened. I don't feel as if I'm worthy of him.
I'm sure you are, dear. With your upbringing, your aunt's example always before you.
I'm very grateful to my auntie, but I'm afraid the only virtue I've learned from her is to do what she tells me.
But why must it be tragedies? Why not comedies? Oh, we're discussing how to bring spirituality to the younger generation.
For the reason that a comedy depicts lowness, whereas a tragedy depicts sentiments of the highest order, and that's what they need.
Nobody believes in anything today. All I hear is, Madame Maniefus is charlatan. Why do you allow her in your house? Well, I'd only like some of them to hear her. They'd see what a charlatan she was. Well, I'm delighted for her. Now I've taken her up, she'll become the most fashionable clairvoyant in Moscow. And I hope Moscow will be grateful to me. I consider myself a public benefactress.
Where's your niece's fiancé?
Where is Igor? In the garden with Grodolin. You know, I expected him to be the exemplary young fellow after hearing such glowing accounts from my friends and for other reasons too, but now that I've come to know Igor, I find that he's much more wonderful than anything I dared to hope for.
Who's this who's so wonderful?
Igor Glumov.
Oh, I knew you'd thank me for him. I didn't offer him any other fiancé. I came straight to you. I always know the right man for the right job.
It would have been a sin to take him anywhere else.
Yes, Glumov should go a long way.
With our help, of course.
I don't know why so much happiness has been granted to me. Perhaps for my... What do you want? Perhaps for my good deeds. What's
It must be for someone else.
No, it's for you. Look, here's the address.
But who brought it to me?
A postman.
Well, where is he?
He's gone long ago.
Give it here. I'll read it and explain it to you. What's this? It's a newspaper, and yet it's not a newspaper. It's just a page from a newspaper. It's an article.
But who sent it to me? The editor?
From some friend, I'd expect.
Well, what's the article about?
That we shall see. It's called How to Become a Success.
That's no interest to any of us. Leave it.
Well, might as well have a look. Huh, there's a portrait in the middle. What's it say underneath? Portrait of an ideal husband. Why, what's this? It's Igor Glumov.
May I see? This is most interesting.
There must be some vile intrigue against him. Oh, he's too good for Moscow. The liberals and freethinkers must be plotting against him.
Are you suggesting it's me? I can't draw portraits. You're the only person I've ever drawn.
Yes, I know that.
Whoever wrote this must know all the most intimate details of Igor's life, if they're not inventions.
There's something else here, too.
That's Igor's handwriting. It's his. I swear it's his.
Yes, it's his handwriting. But there's a different signature on the article. Which shall we read first, the article or this?
Let's have the original first.
All right. Here we are then. There's a bookmark in it. We'll start there. Huh. Seems to be a bill of some sort. To Madame Agnefa, 25 rubles. To Madame Agnefa, another 25 rubles. She's always half-caked in rum and yet takes it upon herself to foretell the future. I've tried with the greatest difficulty to get even an ounce of sense out of her, but it has been so difficult. It's a shame that such a profitable profession should be practiced by such stupid people. I wonder how much she shall get out of poor Madame T. A fair lot, I shall assume, for Madame T is slightly cracked.
Oh, I can't bear it! I can't bear it! Oh, Auntie, it's best that it comes out now. Mr. Mamayev, do go on.
Yes, go on. It's better for Madame Torosina to know the truth.
The two nauseating companions have been given 7 rubles, 50 kopecks each, in addition to several silver snuff boxes, each costing 10 rubles, in return for which they guarantee to see me in the cards and in their dreams each night.
They must go at once. I won't have him in this house another minute. Oh my God, this world is too evil to live in. Mashenka, what can one think after this? If one's wicked, one's a sinner. If one's good, one's a fool.
You needn't complain. You're not the only one who's been made a fool of.
6 anonymous letters to Madame Torsina. 30 kopecks.
So that's where they came from.
Forgive me, darling. I should never have attempted to arrange your life. I see now I've neither the brain nor the strength. Do as you like from now on. Make your own choice. I shall do nothing to stop you.
I've made my choice, Auntie.
At least you'll never be deceived by him. He doesn't pretend to be anything wonderful.
Matyusha and Lubika must leave the house at once!
To make way for other companions?
I don't know.
Do you want me to go on?
Yes, go on. Nothing matters now.
Mr. Mamayev's servant, who brought his master to me, deceitfully playing upon the old man's weaknesses for looking over apartments, has received 3 rubles. A sum well spent, for I hope to get a fair amount more than that out of the poor old hippopotamus. Well, there's no necessity to read any more of this.
Here, I'll read that.
Oh, that's very fine, thank you. There's a conversation with me here. That's of no interest to anybody. This is much better. First visit to the doddering old Krutinsky.
What? What's that? What?
Let's sing the praises of this venerable aged gentleman and his old projects. Only tell us, Mr. Krutinsky, how you've managed to reach the venerable age of 60 and remain intact, the brain of a 6-year-old child.
Enough! Stop! It's a libel! Hand me that book at once.
Take that, thank you very much. Here's a piece about Garodolin. Garodolin was involved in a discussion the other day, an intense discussion at that, when in a fit of passion, one young man called him a liberal. Well, he took it such to heart that for the past 3 days, he's paraded around Moscow telling everybody that he's a liberal. And now, he's just accepted as such. Well, there you go, that's just like him.
Why don't you read the part about yourself, the poor old hippopotamus? That's you.
So you think that's just like me?
Hello, Ivan. So, you see what a study has been made of us all.
Who is this youthful juvenile?
Igor Glumov.
Ivan, take that diary back to its owner and ask him to leave as quietly and quickly as he can.
Don't alarm yourself, Madame Torresina. I'm not going to make a fuss, to explain myself, or attempt to justify myself in any way. I should only like to point out that in dismissing me from your society, you're making a very big mistake.
We have no use for you, young man. We're decent, honest people here.
That's right.
Oh. And who has decided that I am dishonest? Was it you, Mr. Krutitsky? Perhaps your piercing brain became convinced of my dishonesty when I undertook to rewrite your treatise for you. Did you decide that no decent person would do such nauseating work? Or was it that day in my apartment when I expressed delighted admiration at your most pompously puerile phrases and fawned upon you so much that I practically licked your boots? Yes, you were ready to thank me then, weren't you? And what's more is if you hadn't got hold of my diary, you'd have thought of me as a decent person till your dying day.
If I hadn't read the diary, yes.
And what about you, Uncle? When did you decide that I was dishonest? Was it when you were teaching me how to flatter Mr. Krutitsky? Or perhaps when you gave me lessons in how to make love to your wife, so as to keep away other admirers, and I stammered and blushed and said I didn't know how, and said I felt ashamed? But what do you care, so long as you could fancy yourself an experienced man of the world, teaching an inexperienced youngster how to handle women and get on in life? I'm 20 times more intelligent than you, and you know it. For when I pretend to be a fool, you're prepared to swear that I'm the most decent, honest person in the world.
No need to bring up these things now. Better keep quiet about it. We're all in the same family, right?
I admit I made a fool of you, Madame Torresina, but I'm not ashamed of it. I'm only sorry for Mashenka. You ask to be made a fool of every day of your life. In fact, you enjoy it. You let a rum-sodden old woman from the streets enter your house, and you choose a husband for your niece on that woman's advice? Who does your Madame Aniefa know? Whom can she recommend? The one who gives her the most money, of course. You were just lucky it happened to be me, and not an escaped convict she saw descending in a cloud. You'd have accepted him in just the same way.
I only know one thing. The world's too evil to live in.
And what about you, Ivan?
Not a word. You've my greatest admiration. Everything you've said about us, about me at least, I don't know about the others, is the complete truth.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, you can't get on without a person like me. You need someone like me in your lives. People worse than I will come along and you'll say, this fellow's worse than Glumov. But still, I can't help liking him. You're a very staid old gentleman, Mr. Krutitsky, but when a young man treats you deferentially and humbly agrees with your every word, a feeling of rapture goes right through you. You'd do anything to help a man like that. But if he's honest, if he dares to give his true opinion of your futile plans and projects, you'd rather see him starve before you lift a finger for him.
You've taken too great an advantage of our leniency, Mr. Glumov. You can go too far.
Don't be offended, please. You can't get on without me, Uncle. The servants won't listen to your interminable lectures, however much you pay them. Whereas I listen to them for nothing.
That's quite enough. If you cannot understand that it is indecent for you to stay any longer, I shall have to explain it to you.
It's quite unnecessary. And you're another. You can't get on without me either.
I admit it.
Where will you get the epigrams for your after-dinner speeches without me?
I have no idea.
And how will you write your scathing criticisms without my help?
I don't know.
You're in need of me too, Auntie.
I've nothing to say to you. There's only one thing I can't forgive. And I'll try to forget that.
I knew there was something fishy about him from the beginning.
So did I. Something about his eyes.
You thought nothing of the sort. You're furious about my diary, that's all. I don't know how it got into your hands, but even the cleverest man makes a slip sometimes. And any decent person would have the same attitude towards you. Frankly, you make me sick. I'd like you to know, ladies and gentlemen, that while I was moving about in your august society, I was only honest when I was writing in this diary. What's offended you in it anyways? Surely there's nothing new here. You yourselves constantly say the same things behind each other's backs. If I'd read out to each of you separately what I'd written about the others, you'd have roared with laughter and patted me on the back. I'm the one who should feel offended and furious, not you. Well, you've ruined everything for me. You're kicking me out, and you think that'll be the end of it. But you're mistaken. You've not heard the end of it. Not by any means. I consider that you've behaved abominably, that your conduct is indefensible, and that you're unfit to enjoy the society of a decent, honest man like myself.
Well, maybe we oughtn't to let him go like this. It might be making a mistake.
No, I don't think we ought to let him go.
I think I'd like to have a talk with him. I'm beginning to see things in quite a different light.
Let's get him back. Igor! Igor, come back! That's right. Call him, he'll hear you. Igor!
Not after him before he gets to the gates. I feel I'd like to have a talk with him. He's such an interesting person.
Igor!
I don't want to marry him, Auntie, but I do agree with everything he said.
There we are.